When the rain comes, do the puddles smile back at you? What's the point of looking when the banks have burst? In fact, when they've emptied? Do I have time to become this love sponge? Soak it all up? What if I feel like crying? Then cry out for help. There's someone there. There's always someone there. You're there. Hello. This episode looks at the lies to yourself, the lies to your friends, and the lies to those that you love. And how, through following the path to Nirvana, you can stick to changes. I'm Ben, and here's my gambling story.
So yeah, dear diary.
Dear diary.
Dear diary.
Dear diary.
Hello there. Diary. Entry. Dear diary.
I just feel like I need to get a few things out of my head.
Today I had a bit of fuck up.
Really lucky to be here, actually.
Well, I started with 35.
Obviously, my gambling urges do come when I'm bored and when I've got no money.
It's almost as if I knew I was going to lose it all. It's not subterfuge, but it's definitely up there.
I'm really struggling.
Everyone knows my previous with regards to the casino.
Pushing is what's that going to cost me? 150, that's £3, that's nearly half my wage already.
How can you not learn? How can you not learn?
You should get things done too. There's no excuse, mate.
Are you in a good place then?
I never want to be in this situation ever again, and I'm not going to be in this situation ever again.
Quite interesting to see how the pleasure and the purpose are starting to overlap. I'm so desperate.
We'll get through it.
Other than that, I'm all groovy. Anyhow, lots of love and I love you very much.
Alright, nice one. See you in a bit. Do you know what? I'm going to stop talking. Over and out. Ben.
The Diary of a Gambling Kid. Episode 2. When was the last time that you laughed with some welly? Do you really like the person that you've become? I find myself asking these type of questions over and over. The playing around, late nights, nutty festivals have caught up with you now. Things are distant from the past, more so than ever. The jovial bet for pleasure has turned into a battle for the mind. The decision-making damage has been done. The ventral striatum is termed your reward centre deep down in the brain. Neuroscientists found lower levels of brain activity before than after drug, alcohol, and gambling addictions. As the gambling curse takes the reins and the stakes keep getting higher and higher, what do you do when self-reliance is level 0? You reach out. Surely you reach out. Not this time. Experiences like this make it hard to look in the mirror. God forbid anyone else. Being honest, again, what's that like? At the time this diary entry was recorded, my mum was due to arrive the day after. Can there be anyone more important visiting? I am doing me. I can stand on my own 2 feet, Mum. You can't see me like this because it's the last thing I want you to worry about. I was flicking through the TV channels and stumbled across The Secrets of a 40-Year-Old Virgin. Not the comedy, but a TV show. I caught the last 10 minutes. This man, 40-something years of age, was terrified of having sex, troubled to even take his top off. The sex therapist helps him through his struggles. As the show unravels and reaches its climax, so did the man. So, why did the man share his story? I don't know. I rationalised that there were people in similar situations of his own. Or perhaps he was in it for the money, that the success of the show would give him fame and fortune. Surely not. Or maybe it was just some marketing ploy from his specialist sex therapist, who was receiving a great deal of indirect advertising as a result. Sex sells. Then I asked myself, why am I watching? Was it because I was curious and intrigued? Or was I just being judgmental? I'd like to think that the man was sharing his deepest and darkest feelings to spread awareness, helping himself in the process, with that possibility of helping others to overcome their sexual situations, no matter how big or small. What a set of bollocks he has indeed. He did it. He reached out. We live in a 2020 world where decision makers around the globe openly disguise their lies. Trump, Putin, Cummings, all to maintain power. I know that I did this to retain this image of normality. I had to stop lying to myself. I wouldn't get through this alone. In this reality, you have to initiate the life of honesty. It's hard. It's so hard. That was no reference to the 40-year-old virgin, by the way. At the time of this second diary entry, I was coming up to the end of my radio course, with deadlines needing to be met. Lost Village Music Festival was on the horizon, and spending money was scarce. After realising that I had reached my low point, I still chose to keep betting, keep losing, keep tricking myself. The financial hole created by gambling from the previous week's antics had cornered me in. This diary entry is taken from the 14th of August, 2018. Here is a place where I do not want to be. Confused and desperate. The Diary of a Gambling Kid. Episode 2.
Quick update for you. Day 3 of doing whatever this fucking thing is. Mum's coming tonight, not finished the jingles off. Spend the day trying to get money, gambling, got it up to £400, then lost it all, so now I'm on £1.15. It's weird as well, because I got myself a Just Eat, as if I thought that'd be fine when I got the £400, but it's almost as if I knew I was going to lose it all. Whether there's some psychology in that, I don't know. But it's almost like the only thing that was going to stop me was just me failing. As if that's the only thing that was going to make, I don't know. Very weird. It's happened before, numerous times, but I thought I was past all that, to be honest. So yeah, I've eaten an entire box of fucking Haagen-Dazs, and some Just Eat. Football was good, but we fucked it a bit. 2-0 we lost, but put a shift. I've got really sore on my legs now. I know I lost some money today, but I feel like I needed to lose. In the long run, I needed to lose, because if I'd won that £400, then I would have just relied on that and would have just kept on doing it, and knowing full well that it was a fluke. I think especially now at the time when my dad told me he was proud of me and stuff like that, I think now's the time really now is the time to grow up and not use betting as some sort of back, like, yeah, 400 quid would have been amazing, and yeah, it would have paid for Lost Village. But I think the fact that I'll have to learn how to look after my money more and manage it better, it means that I've got no choice. And if I've got no choice, then, well, what does that do, Ben? It leads to gambling? No, it doesn't. Because I know that will just mean that I will have no money and I won't be able to eat, which, yeah, fair enough, would actually be quite good, to be honest. But you know what I mean. I can't live like this. Staying up till 2:30 at night, listening to jazz music, because I think it's going to make me feel better, because somehow I think it's some sort of invisibility cloak conning me into thinking that I'm some sort of intellectual, when actually I'm no more than any stupid fucking idiot. All about the potential, going back to what I said 3 days ago. I was really upset when I lost the football money, and now this. Have I learned anything? What, that money now, just sort of money, yeah, number one priority? No. What have I learned from this is that I need to sort it out. When I say I need to, I think this gives me no choice but to sort it out. And when I mean sort it out, I mean sort out me. I always find excuses. And I think the fact that I'm going to be shamed because, well, do you know what? I'm just going to stop talking. But I'm excited to see Mum tomorrow. And, God, I'm not telling her, but, you know, we'll get through it. Love you loads.
That was me then. And this is me now. How to stick to a change for the better. With peer stresses and strains. I mentioned in episode 1 that I would look at how to solve an addiction following Buddhist techniques and teachings. This is influenced by my travels around Thailand and Laos earlier this year, before, of course, being repatriated back home. I visited temples, pagodas, and some absolutely magnificent parks, where I would find quotes from the Buddha, such as, "Those with good eye are inclined to fall deep into wells. Without a beginning, there is nothing to worry about at the end. Living without hope is like burying oneself. And finally, there is no glory for a lazy person, no matter how good looking." Very poignant and relevant, as you may notice from the unbelievable graphic design from Sam Houston. That's me. He's drawn me. Fascinated by the architecture and these quotes, I was keen to understand the meaning behind Dhamma, which is the Buddhist teachings and its impacts on the addiction recovery process. Buddhists see help given to others as an expression of their religious values, just as any other religions do. But they believe it should be done quietly and without self-promotion. A bit of a background now. Buddhism originates from India and is now 2,500 years old. The word Buddhism comes from the word buddhi, which means to wake up. The process taken from Refuge Recovery by Noah Levine follows the Buddhism system of the Four Noble Truths, which you may or may not already be familiar with. The Four Noble Truths began as actions, and I'm going to read them to you now and how they relate to addiction. So, number 1 is that we take stock in all the suffering we have experienced and caused as addicts. Number 2 is that we investigate the causes and conditions that lead to addiction and begin the process of letting them go. Number 3 is that we come to understand that recovery is possible and take refuge in the path that leads to the end of addiction. And finally, number 4 is that we engage in the process of the Eightfold Path that leads to recovery. If you're not too familiar with the Eightfold Path, its alternative name is the Middle Way. This is important because it suggests to us that it is not just enough to follow the 8-step path, but that we have to follow it in a particular way. A way that is not done in excess but balanced. Like the Romans and Greeks, moderation in all things. The path is as follows: understanding, intention, communication, action, livelihood, energy, mindfulness, and concentration. And that's it. Now, of course, they're just one words. But in total, in a brief synopsis, the Eightfold Path consists of, I'll repeat, understanding, intention, communication, action, livelihood, energy, mindfulness, and concentration. In all things. So, this week's perspective looks at focusing on the final step of the Eightfold Path: concentration. Back in 2018, my mind was jumping from excuse to excuse, trying to explain my erratic behaviour. On that day, over 2 years ago, developing my mind to focus on a single object such as the breath or a phrase. Training the mind through practices of love and kindness, compassion and forgiveness, I could utilise concentration to abstain from acting unwisely. Because of our mind, and because it will be focused on one object, you become no longer aware of the hindrances of sleepiness that may have been caused, restlessness, craving, doubt, and aversion. So, if you find yourself with a spare 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. Set yourself a timer and just focus on your breath. Focus on it. And repeat phrases like this. May I be free from suffering, and may I be at ease. May I be free from suffering, and may I be at ease. May I be free from suffering, and may I be at ease. Repeating these mantras will create new thought patterns and even re-establish neural pathways. Give it a go and let me know how you get on. For more information on the Buddhist path to recovery, check out Noah Levine's book, Refuge Recovery. And if you are curious to learn more about Buddhism, but don't want to spend the money on flights to go to Asia, a great place to start would be the book Good Question, Good Answer. You'll find it as a PDF document online. One day at a time. Just one day at a time. Addiction is in no rush to get you. If you think you might require professional assistance, check out the links in this episode's description and get in contact. Share your story. I'm just me, the Diary of a Gambling Kid podcast at gmail.com. Check me out on Facebook as well. It's just the Diary of a Gambling Kid podcast. In the next episode, we'll be looking at a diary entry where I go on a casino trip. Oh yeah, and like and subscribe. Let's just try and help people through these crazy times. This podcast is dedicated on telling you what compulsive gambling is really like in the modern world, with weekly diary entries and reflective perspectives. I'm not a psychology expert, trained therapist, or even a class clown. I'm a compulsive gambler. I did not attend counselling sessions and Gamblers Anonymous meetings to learn the recovery programmes. I went to save my life. Reaching my version of rock bottom started my journey on closing the door on gambling for good. I am blessed to have a solid support network around me, but for many, there is no turning point moment. This podcast says hello to those when others may not. The Diary of a Gambling Kid, Episode 2.